All right. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to Winning with Customer Reviews and How to Ask, Reply, and Grow. This is a pretty important thing to do. A lot of folks don't really focus on that. This is something that you can do to get ahead of your competition. It's super important for AEO or answer engine optimization. It can help you rank for SEO, and a majority of consumers look at reviews before they engage with a new provider. So, just a little background on myself. I've been helping small company grow for over 25 years. I've focused on the landscaping industry for the last 16 years. I'm active in NULP, WALP, OLCA, and CLCA. I'm actually on the board of WALP, the Washington Association of Landscape Professionals. I've been recognized in the Moz community. That's a community where other SEOs congregate and ask questions, and due to my expertise, they rank me 109 in the world. I've been trusted by clients over the years. 6 of our clients have achieved a buyout, and we have been able to maintain a turnover rate of less than 7% when the industry average is 24 to 48%. And essentially, how we do that and is we have programs based on the company size to increase your visibility, increase your conversion, and then if you can't measure it, it's not true. So we're always measuring and figuring out how to improve. We have our base programs, but we adjust those for each of our clients. We're a full service agency, and we have services to hit your company where it's at and provide support. So, we're going to talk about reviews today, which is one of my favorite things. And I admit one of my sources of frustration because folks have a hard time getting them, even though they're really important. And so, we're going to go over kind of why the reviews matter, tactics and tools to get it done. And I think the most important thing is we all get reviews, and what do you do? How do you reply? And how do you reply to the person that got dropped on their head as a kid? Keep it neutral and professional. We're going to do this. All right. So 65% of consumers look at reviews before they decide to go with somebody. Personally, my wife is the worst. Like, we were booking a hotel for this weekend, and she eliminated, I think, 3 of them after she dove into the reviews. So it's really common for people to do that. They now show up in Google Maps, and I think it's an important component. So AIs are always trying to figure out who's better than the other. And so it's important to understand or present that understanding of why your company is better. So they're always comparing. So reviews saying that so and so is the best at retaining walls or does the best stamp pavers or whatever. That's going to be a source for Claude and for ChatGPT, Gemini, all of them. And then when you do reviews, you're going to build trust. They're going to help you rank. We're going to talk about that a little later. And as I just mentioned, they feed the AIs. So you want to have a steady stream of high 4 and 5-star reviews. You should not. I had a client, he got a Zappy card and he got like 65 reviews in a day or something crazy. Don't do that because Google starts to go, oh, they're scamming us. You want to look at a reasonable pace and just kind of make it part of what you do. And going back to previous customers is great, but you want to do it at more at a steady pace rather than doing it all at once. And tying directly into maps, if you can get the client to mention the review, location, that's really helpful, and what you did for them. And then, kind of where to ask for reviews. Google is the easiest to ask for reviews for. Yelp is a second priority, not because they're a lower priority as far as search, but they're harder to get reviews on. And then Nextdoor and Facebook. Another one I'll mention that is often overlooked is Better Business Bureau. All of those are really good sources. Kind of people ask when to ask. Right after the job when the customer's happy is obviously a good time. Maybe before or as you're packing up the truck. Generally, you want to do it while it's fresh in their mind. And when they say something nice, you want to jump on it. One pro move, by the way, is to do the job and maybe ask for the review on site, which isn't a terrible thing to do. But the other is to do a follow-up call from the office and ask the client how everything went. And if they're really happy, send them a review link. And if they're not, take care of it before they write a bad review. And we've done that for clients, and they're always surprised when somebody's calling and they're really happy. And if there's a problem, they're happy not because they're like, oh, we can get them for this problem, but they're happy because you're paying attention and they know that you're going to help them get it resolved. And essentially kind of weaving it into the conversation. You want to just, when they say they're happy, just say, hey, would you mind writing a review? You can send them a text. You can also send them a text after the job wraps up. So a couple things. Ultimate nightmare is if you are offering discounts or some kind of gift or freebie. It's terrible and could literally get your Google profile suspended if the client goes, hey, Joe gave me a discount for writing this review or whatever. So you just shouldn't do it. And the other thing that a lot of restaurants were doing is having staff members do a contest, and essentially the way they measured it was how many times the staff member was mentioned by name. So now that's a no-no. And I have, the guidelines are not to pressure customers to leave a review while they're still on the property. And I would say never pressure the client, but at the same time, that is a good time to ask. And you don't necessarily want to tell customers what to say in their review. Although, what you can do is if they ask for guidance, just say, hey, it'd be great if, focused or highlighted something that you really liked about our install. So they tend to say things, in the review about what you did. I did a brief stint in retail. This is like 25 years ago or something, just to learn how to sell and deal with people. And it wasn't reviews at the time, it was warranties. But essentially we had to ask every time. And the problem with that is you do tend to want to pressure the client if you're required to get it, and you don't want to do that. I do encourage you, like if somebody gets a positive review, to give them a little spiff or some kind of, bonus if they do the review. I know a lot of landscapers have been really successful with that. And really what you're trying to do is just encourage them to integrate it into what they do every day. And essentially, these rules we're going over, they are being enforced quite a bit. Google's AIs now review every single review. And the skill of AI, and this is kind of why they're big in medicine, is they're able to look at massive amounts of data and create correlations or see patterns. And so stuff that used to slip through will not slip through anymore. If a review looks incentivized, it's going to get removed. If Google sees a pattern of abuse, they'll just suspend your profile. And if they do that, it's super hard to get it back. And then to kind of make it worse, because people creating fake reviews and doing stuff they shouldn't be doing has become quite a problem. And so the FTC put some rules into effect. And, if somebody writes a fake review on you, or if you pay somebody to do a review, or do a review in exchange for discounts or hiding bad reviews, If things are kind of out of order, as far as that goes, you can get up to a $52,000 fine. So it's not good to play kind of games on these anymore. So let's talk about tools. First is like, and I look at this overall, everything you do that you want somebody to do, you want to decrease the transactional friction and make it easy for them. You can essentially go in to your Google profile. You can click next to ask for reviews, copy the link, and you can save it so you can find it fast. And there's multiple ways that you can use it then. So include it in your follow-up text after jobs. Add at the bottom of your invoice. Put it in your email signature. You can put it on your website contact page. You can also use QR codes left at the property. One note on QR codes is you should get something like a Bitly account where for your company, and you can create the QR code there, and you can use that QR code and it will actually measure how many times people do it. Another pro move on your trucks and signage and other places where you might put your company information, you can also have a QR code with your company information. And again, if you do it with Bitly, you can measure how many people actually scan that. And so, as we discussed, putting on your business card and invoice, adding it to magnets, putting on thank you cards, adding to, your trucks. And obviously, if it's not put in a place that you can use it, it's not going to get used. So this is something that I have kind of a passion for just because it's so effective. These Zappy cards, and I think you can get like 3 for $60, and I think you get a bigger discount the more you buy. They're what's called an NFC review card. And there are other brands other than Zappy card. But basically, I think you guys have all had the situation where it's like, oh, yeah, I'll write a review. And then nobody ever does because they get busy and distracted with other things. One thing that's great about Zappy cards is if they are interested, just say, hey, can I tap your phone? And the screen will come up. And, when the review screen is there, that is super powerful with the client. And so they tend to review right away or, fairly soon after that screen comes up. And I've had people triple their reviews every month by just kind of incorporating these into their strategy so that, making it, coming back to the transactional friction, making it convenient for consumers is always a great move. And then one of the things that's in, many of the platforms you're in is using reputation management or review request software. So like FieldFlow, which is our marketing automation platform, HubSpot's another one, Jobber. There's numerous options out there. What they do is a message goes out to the client when the job's complete, asking them kind of how things went with the review link in the message. And essentially, it asks them how things went. And if they're happy, it sends them the link. And if they're unhappy, it sends them a form so you can get things corrected. Kind of a two-step plan is same day and then check if they wrote a review. And if they didn't, send out a link to remind them 3 to 5 days later. And then again, just ask for the sale, right? Let them know that you want a review and, get the link out there. Again, this is kind of an example of the email. You're going to get a copy of this webinar afterwards. And the other thing is they started to include photos in reviews. So sending them a photo of the job along with the link will help them kind of include that. And again, looking at options, you can put it on your door hangers, you can put it on your receipts, your seasonal renewals, and your business cards. All right, when people are reading the reviews, they know that people were dropped on their head or beaten as a kid or whatever, and they know a lot of reviewers are that way. So it's really important to reply to the reviews and understand that your audience is not the customer. It is the people reading the review later. And so be sure to think of that when you're writing it. And a good response can turn a review around. And also, if you can review properly, you can silence people that are hurting you. I did a response to a review. The lady was clearly had some sight issues, and she said that our client left a pallet of sod in the middle of the parking lot. And so we didn't get mad. We just kind of responded and said, hey, we're sorry we didn't see that. We put that in the yellow no parking zone, and we thought it was pretty visible. And I put the size, and I think it was like 6 feet high by 6 feet wide, that type of thing. And but we did it apologetically, but we kind of, for the reader, let them know that, like, hey, this is where this person shouldn't have been driving, and they should have seen it. And so you can be crafty like that, but overall, you want to thank the customer on the good reviews. You want to mention the service that you did for them if they didn't mention it, or even just kind of expand on that. You want to just keep it really short and warm, 2 to 3 sentences. And again, just really neutral and happy and just short and sweet. And on a lukewarm review, especially if they mention something's wrong, kind of the playbook is to thank them, acknowledge the gap, and offer to fix it. And again, for the people that are reading the review, that's going to tell them that you're going to proactively deal with issues that come up. But also, a lot of times, clients, if you do that, they'll actually go in and update their review and talk about what you did when they brought up the problem, which is a really good review. So I think this is going on like way more than it used to. You'll get like the 1 star with no description, or you'll get reviews for somebody that isn't you. Be sure, even if they're saying your company name, be sure to check that it's actually you, or that they're actually in your area. A lot of times there's 650,000 landscape companies in the country. And to kind of give you an idea, on our Google Ads, we have this huge database of landscapers to put in as negative keywords, because there's, literally thousands in your area. And so there's a lot of times customers will write a bad review and they don't notice that it's you. They think it's the guy that's across the country or across the state. So make sure the customer was actually a customer, and also note if it's a competitor or former employee. And the key here is to get, and I would even say print out if you need to, the guidelines for reviews. They're provided by both Google and Yelp and anyone that does reviews. And you can go in and flag the review based on the guidelines and state what the issue is. And it's not always, but most of the time, if you have a legitimate reason to flag it, they'll take the review down. And then when you flag a review, you do not want to respond to the review before it's been taken down. So when you flag a review, wait like 3 business days before flagging again. Do know that many times the flag is rejected the first time, so just do it again. And you can appeal through whatever the platform is. And again, do not reply to the review until, if you think you can get it taken down by flagging it, don't reply until that's done. And again, if the process goes through its course of flagging it a couple times and it still doesn't come down, it is important to respond. And so if you get a bad review, you want to just really stay calm and professional. You want to acknowledge their concern without arguing and offer to make it right offline. That's a good thing to do too. And remember again that the people, really who this is for is the people that read the review later. All right, and then on replies, you don't want to argue or get defensive. Even if you're angry, it doesn't help, and don't blame the customer because that comes off the wrong way. You don't want to provide private details. And again, just short and sweet is the best thing. And it's best not to ignore it and just hope it goes away because it never does. And again, coming back to flagging, just look for the signs that it's a fake review or there's something wrong. And again, if you flag it and it still doesn't come down, and somebody's not a customer, just say, we were never able to find you in our records. Can you reach out to us? Let the people reading the review later that there's a strong possibility this isn't even a customer. And so once you've gone through the flagging process, you do want to respond in 24 to 48 hours. Good reviews within a week, and kind of build it into your routine. Dealing with reviews is part of everyone's dirty 30, like that 30% of reviews, that 30% of your job that you don't want to do. And maybe you just kind of do it first thing Monday morning and get it out of the way. But just figure out whatever the date is and just put it in your calendar. And then again, slow and steady wins the course. If have consistent recent activity, that's a better way to do it. And it's okay to have like 20 or 100 reviews a week, but you want to be consistent about it. You want to just kind of follow a pattern of some sort to where it doesn't get taken down as being like a fake or paid review. And, this is kind of a suggested routine. Obviously Monday, check and reply to reviews. And I don't think this is a Tuesday thing. I think it's an everyday thing, is ask for reviews at the job, send follow-up texts, and just kind of keep on asking. And then again, your crew, they're not necessarily trained on this. I don't know about you, but I am constantly amazed when you think that of everything that has to happen in our industry and landscaping every day, how many crews are operating independently, that every job comes off as well as it does. And so this is adding another thing. And so you want to help them come up with the script of what you want them to say, or again, maybe role play with them a little bit, get them comfortable asking for reviews. If they are using NFC cards or QR codes, show them how to use it. And just checklists are awesome. You do checklists for other things, have it part of their exit checklist. And in your weekly meetings, it's a great idea to recognize the guys that are killing it on reviews. Again, you don't want to just have random people responding to your reviews. You want to have somebody that can kind of follow the guidelines we're giving today And I would just, designate one or two people to do it, but just consistently, have that as part of their job description, have them consistently do it. So the new thing is AI reviews. Kind of what I like, and I'm going to mention FieldFlow. That's our marketing automation platform. It does it is I like it to have the reviews response set to automatically reply. I would set up the automatic reply for like 10 or 15 days out. And that way it catches it. The reply kind of catches it if you don't get to it. And, again, I would not just do the AI reply because everybody, will notice right away if that's what you're doing. But at the same time, having that as a backup is a really good plan. You don't want to have it do it the same day because that if you need to flag the review, it kind of prevents that. So you want to kind of set the response time a little ways out. That's just kind of like a second way to cover yourself. And then even if there's already an AI reply, it's not a terrible thing to go in and modify and update the AI reply because again, people can tell if humans have done it. And everything that you measure improves. And so you want to try to get your star rating up. I had a client they're still a client, and it's been really challenging for them. When they started, they were like at 1 star, and they had a bunch of them, a bunch of negative reviews. And so we were able to get rid of some by flagging them, but we still weren't able to get rid of many of them. And today, I think they're at 4.7 stars. It's taken them 2.5 years, but they've consistently kind of done all the things we've outlined and they've steadily improved their reviews. And again, let your team know, let them know in the meetings, weekly meetings, how you're doing and kind of what the goal is. And just use that to kind of give people guidelines and to encourage them and encourage yourself to improve it. Common question we get is how many reviews should you have? So first thing I recommend if somebody's just starting out, which I don't think is most of you, is to aim for 10 reviews on Google and Yelp. And then the next thing we do is we do a competitive analysis and we look at your competitors and we see how many reviews they have. And then we try to get reviews from those. We try to get more reviews than those competitors. And then kind of the sneaky trick is, let's say somebody has 200 reviews and you've got 10 or 20. So the tricky move to kind of get ahead of them as far as search goes, weirdly enough, Google they put a higher priority on Yelp reviews than they do Google reviews. So when they weight reviews on search, Yelp has a higher weighting than Google. And so a sneaky way to get ahead of your competitors if you have a big gap is focus on Yelp reviews and try to get 10 or 20 of those out of your customer base. And that'll often shoot you ahead of your competitors while you're building up your Google reviews. So reviews are also a great way to get some more work. So you want to add the review widget to your website. And there's several tools to do that. So you can kind of get the reviews populating. This is also social proof. And so you want to have people seeing your reviews on your website because it lets them know that you're doing good stuff. Putting reviews for your specific services on the service pages is kind of a good bonus move and helps. Essentially, my company, obviously, and you should be focused on conversion. You want to kind of go through the check boxes in the client's head before they reach out to you. And one of those is validation and social proof. So getting those reviews on your pages is a great thing to do. Sharing reviews on social media. Again, that's top of funnel. So social media is the lowest. There's not a high intent, transactional intent. So you shouldn't focus on social media for sales, but social media is excellent and is a non-invasive way to brand your company and create awareness of your company so that when the client wants to do a transaction, they reach out to you. And so reviews, sharing those reviews and those stories is a powerful way to kind of build it up so that when somebody does do a transaction, they do it with you. There's a thing in marketing called the rule of sixes. It takes 6 impressions for a consumer of anything to reach out to you. And at 89 impressions, if everything else is equal, they'll usually come to you. And kind of the one, this is not related to reviews, but it's related to newsletters, but it's the same concept. I had this lady show up at a trade show, and she'd been getting our newsletter for 2 or 3 years. And she came up and talked to me like she knew who I was and said, "Hey, I didn't need, a website or marketing, but I knew when I did, I'd do it with you." And we got a new client. And just right along those lines, people aren't looking to do it necessarily a transaction on social media, but when they go to do a transaction, that initial awareness and branding really helps. And then again, coming back to AI search, the AI is directly, if they're preparing a brief for somebody who asks, like, who's the best hardscaper, or who does the best maintenance, they'll pull those reviews right into their brief. And I got to tell you, when you get a lead where AI has recommended it, it's about as pre-qualified as you can get. I have a client in Bend that does landscape design, and because of the things that we did and she did, she is now ranked in AI as the top landscape designer in that area. And she's gotten a few leads that way, and they've been really good leads. So it's also on estimates. Part of the validation is social proof, so send them there. That's good in your proposals, follow-up emails, kind of let your clients who have had a good experience sell for you. And again, coming back to what I talked about earlier, you don't want to buy reviews, you don't want to offer a discount. Again, replying with anger or sarcasm to a bad review is not a good thing. And you don't want to wait too long without replying. So go through, if it's a bad review, just, again, go through the flagging process. And if that doesn't work, just write a neutral reply and move on. Got it. If you don't ask, you don't get. So you want to ask for the reviews. And as dumb as it sounds, most of the people we get that say they can't get reviews, they're just not asking. You don't want to ask like a year later. You want to ask fairly near when the service is provided. I will say that it isn't a terrible thing to call your clients a year later and see how things going. If they were happy with the services and they haven't reviewed, it is a good time to ask them. But also, it just, when things are slow, it's a good way to stimulate business. You want to make the link easy to get and easy to find, and just you want to make it part of your follow-up process. Figure out how you're going to get up the reviews. Set up your QR code or NFC cards or your review links and where you're going to have it. That's the first thing we recommend over the next 30 days. Train your crew in the next few meetings. Put together some reply templates for whoever's doing the replies. Or the other thing I recommend is to take a few minutes, if you haven't been replying to your reviews, and go in with the person that's going to do it and coach them as they write the replies. And then you want to just start every, I don't, it doesn't really have to be Monday, but just once a week, you want to check your reviews. So, kind of things you can do is ask for the review right away. You can use tools, definitely build it into your routine and get those reviews out there. All right, we do have our free book that just kind of has an outline of these things. All right, if you want to talk to us, feel free to book a strategy call with that QR code. And if there aren't any questions, I hope you all have a great day.